Bezimrat Yah Vayehil Yeshua Ozi Bezimrat Yah Vayehil Yeshua Ozi Bezimrat Yah Vayehi 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 Yeshua. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We stand here this Shabbat on the precipice of crossing the sea into liberation. That's right. Pesach begins tomorrow night. I hope you have consumed most of your chametz by now. But it's not here yet, so let us begin our Shabbat service on page 120 of Mishkan Tefillah with our candle lighting. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Kirishanu V'mitzvotav V'tzivanu Lahadlik Ner Shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who hallows us with mitzvot, commanding us to kindle the light of Shabbat. And now we welcome in Sabbath Bride with Lecha Dodi on pages 138 and 139. We sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, and when we reach verse 9, I invite you, if you're able, to rise and face whichever way you feel the presence of Shabbat coming into you tonight, whether that's to your door, out your window, at the screen, or to your own beloved. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zachor b'nibor echad, Hishmianu el hamiuchad, Adonai echad, u'shemo echad, v'shemo tiferet v'tila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu b'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshava tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Hitorari, kiva orech kumiori, uri, shir daberi, kevod arai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Bo'oi v'shalom ateret bala, gam besimcha u'betzola, toch emunei am segula, bo'oi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, penei Shabbat nekabela. Let's continue to warm up our spirits with the reading on page 126 of Mishkan Tefillah. I begin with a prayer of gratitude for all that is holy in my life. God needs no words, no English or Hebrew, no semantics, and no services, but I need them. Through prayer, I can sense my inner strength, my inner purpose, my inner joy, my capacity to love. As I reach upward in prayer, I sense these qualities in my Creator. To love God is to love each other, to work to make our lives better. To love God is to love the world God created and to work to perfect it. To love God is to love dreams of peace and joy that illumine all of us, to bring that vision to life. And now I invite you to feel yourselves centered as we segue into our evening service fully. We are still a bit short of a minyan, so instead of the Baruch Hu officially, I will call you to worship by inviting you to ground yourselves. Obviously, if you are driving, don't close your eyes behind the wheel. But whichever one of you, Heidi, is not driving, Heidi or Steve, go ahead and close your eyes. Feel the weight of your feet on the ground or your backside in your chair. Take a deep breath in and set your intention for this service. Often I hear that language at the beginning of a yoga class, right? Set your intention for this practice. But that's also what the word kavanah means, intention. And we say it in a sense of we pray with our hearts. We pray with kavanah. So set your mind to that intention, to that kavanah, what it is you need to get out of this service, this Shabbat, and how you're going to propel yourself into that rested place. Roll into light, roll into dark, night becomes day, Day turns to night, roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech. כולל אור מפני חושך, וחושך מפני אור. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, kolel or mipnei choshech, kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Baruch atah Adonai hama'ariv aravim. Everlasting love, you offer your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. On pages 152 and 153, we have the Shema followed by the Ve'ahavta. I invite you to prepare yourself for these words of Torah. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinatam levanecha v'dibarta bam b'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech ושכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים אלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go is eternal Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. No tehilo dosei felech, no tehilo dosei felech. Malechutecha ra'u banecha, חוקי הים לפני משה ומרים, זה אלי אנו ויאמרו, זה אלי אנו ויאמרו. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Baruch atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael. Page 161. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל, אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי Shabbat vayinafesh, Shabbat vayinafesh, Shabbat vayinafesh. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat lidorotam berit olam. We come now to the central portion of our evening prayer. The Amidah begins on page 164 and continues over the next few pages. And heads up, this is the last time we're going to say Mashiv Haruach U'Morid Hagashem together. By next Friday, we will be in the summer liturgically. Please prepare yourself for these blessings. Adonai sifatai tiftachu fi agid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula livnei b'neihem, למען שמו באהבה, מלך חוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה רב להושיע. משיב רוח ומוריד הגשם, מחכה חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים. סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו משני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך נמית ומחייב, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. Please be seated if you rose, and we continue together on page 172. You set aside the seventh day for your name, the pinnacle of creation, and you blessed it above all other days, more sacred than all festival times. So it is written in your Torah, the heaven and the earth were finished and all their array. On the seventh day, God had completed the work that had been done, ceasing then on the seventh day from all the work that God had done. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy and ceased from all the creative work that God had chosen to do. Our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that all Israel who sanctifies your name may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. On page 174, we'll insert the blessing for Pesach, even though we are a day early, but just to get into the spirit of things, we'll do that. Find favor, Adonai, our God, with your people Israel, and accept your prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn loving to your servants, pour out your spirit upon us. Our God and God of our fathers and mothers, on this Chag HaMatzot hazeh, on this almost Pesach, be mindful of us and all your people Israel, for good, for love, for compassion, life, and peace. Remember us for well-being. Visit us with blessing. Help us to a fuller life. Let our eyes behold your loving return to Zion. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose presence returns to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai hamachazir shechinato leTzion. Page 176. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles which we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, morning, evening, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch atah Adonai hatov shimcha u'lechana'el lehodot. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech adon, Kol hashalom. V'tov beinecha livarech et amcha Yisrael. B'chol eit u'kol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Yisrael amcha. Tasim leolam. Shalom Yisrael amcha. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Baruch atah Adonai hamivarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom. We take a moment now for silent prayer. You might use the words on pages 80 and 181 if you have the book, or the meditations of your own heart. Yehiyu l'ratzon imrefi v'hagyon libi lefanecha Adonai tzuri Adonai tzuri v'goali May the words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable to you, Adonai, our rock and redeemer. We turn our thoughts now to those who are ill or injured and in need of recovery. As I say the names on my list, please share any names in the chat for whom you'd like to say a healing blessing for. Mary Kennedy, Rosalind Cantu, Mike Haug, Lori Perry, Nick Joliak, Ariel Batsluba, Rhoda Westler, Marion Finkel, Skip Brace, Rhonda Butler, Ricky Grant, Shoshana Bat Avraham, Minna Dornfeld, Julia Arrighi, Leslie White, Ann Cohen, Charlotte Birch, Anita Ash, Joseph Matter, Daryl Swan, Steve McGrew, David Nemero, David Ray, David Harper, Doris Hudson Trujillo, Dylan Redman, Edward Asher, and Susan Smith. The Misha Berach is on page 371, and we pray for a total recovery of mind, body, and spirit to all those in need. Misha Berach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Le'imotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha la'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema. the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. This week's Torah portion is Parashat Tzav, in which more details of the various sacrifices which were introduced last week are described. There are a few choice lines and possible interpretations of this parsha, but this week the word Tzav itself is really catching me. It is the same root as the word mitzvah, but in the imperative. There is something doubly insistent about commanding someone to command. Rashi says the expression tzav implies an urging for now and for future generations. Chizkuni, another French Torah commentator and rabbi from about 150 years after Rashi, expands. Whenever the expression tzav is used, it is a commandment to be performed with alacrity, without delay, and it is meant to apply indefinitely, not only for a limited time, a limited period, or one time. So there are a few things this week that I feel commanded to command. Mitzvot that I think we could and should all be better fulfilling with speed and with sustainability. There was a reprisal this week of triggering news about attempts to re-platform a particular Jewish sociologist who was ousted from his prestigious positions in Jewish leadership in 2018 after years of abuse and sexual harassment. There were 2 mass shootings in the news in as many weeks. And there is constantly the ongoing struggle between convenience of mass corporations versus the human rights of working people. Now, the news of the Jewish sociologist strikes me in a more personal way as a woman and as a product of an interfaith marriage which he publicly demeaned for years. This is the work that they think is worth replatforming him for, despite his abuse, his rhetoric on Jewish continuity, which largely denigrates interfaith marriages and views women largely as baby makers. So surprise, surprise, he also acts like a misogynist toward women in his real life. But that aside, it strikes me as deeply tragic that we are still hearing of the dangerous working conditions of Amazon employees and others in similar warehouse and shipping industries. Because yesterday was the 110th anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. It was the deadliest industrial disaster in New York City and one of the deadliest in the history of the United States. Of the 143 victims killed in that tragedy, the vast majority were young women or even teenage girls, and they were largely Italian and or Jewish immigrants. The scope of the deaths was mostly due to the fact that the workers were locked in the workrooms, unable to escape when the fire broke out. Today, horror stories continue to leak out about warehouse jobs with dangerous working conditions. Employees locked in without access to bathrooms, long hours without breaks, delivery drivers forced to pee in bottles, and union busting everywhere, despite the laws passed in the aftermath of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire specifically intended to put a stop to such things. The mitzvot to engage in fair business practices and to treat every person as a reflection of the divine has not been pursued urgently or with eternity in mind. This is unfortunately as true for some Jewish-owned businesses, including Orthodox Jewish-owned businesses, as others. The dismissal of these commandments is heartbreaking, infuriating, and when done by visible Jews, it's frankly embarrassing. We should learn from the deaths of so many Jewish women on this anniversary of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire to pursue better working conditions for everyone. And these horrible working conditions for minimum wage employees, often including immigrants with few other options, is exploitative on a level not far from slavery. This week, as we slide from Shabbat Tzav into Pesach, the holiday of our liberation from slavery, we would do well to reflect on the persistence of pharaohs in our own day. When we read the Haggadah, we are commanded to experience this story as though we ourselves were slaves in Egypt and we ourselves are experiencing the freedom for the first time. This is not merely rhetoric or an exercise in bibliodrama. This is an act of intensifying our empathic abilities, an exercise of recognizing who around us is still literally enslaved, and a fortification of our commandments to work to free others. It is imperative that each and every Jewish person understand that they are required to actively pursue equality, freedom, and justice. So, Tzav, command that others behave more justly. Hold business owners and politicians and community leaders accountable. And do your utmost to urgently pursue mitzvot now, that we may pave the way for future generations to continue on a righteous path. And may we all have a Chag Kasher v'Sameach. Amen and Shabbat Shalom. We turn now toward our concluding prayers. The Aleinu is on page 586. And I invite you to prepare yourself for these blessings, for this blessing. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, lated gedula leotzer bereshit, shelo asanu b'goyei haratzot, v'lo samhanu kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, u'mishtachavim u'modim, Livnei melech malchei hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu, yihye Adonai echad. U'shemo echad. We turn our thoughts now to those among us who are no longer among us in body, but remain with us in spirit. As I read the names on my list, please feel free to add any names in the chat of those for whom you would like to say a mourner's Kaddish. This week marks a yahrzeit for Wayne Kavitsky, Clara Breeding, David Krasnow, Lois Ann Markowitz, Philip Drucker, Martha Lazaroff, Leo Shapiro, and Louis Friedman. And we are still, and it's also, as I mentioned in the drash, the yahrzeit for the victims of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. And we're still within the year of mourning for David Avery, Art Rich, Jason Brown, Louis Petrozello, Gary Lyons, John DiNicola, Arizona Breeding, Fran Morona, Rick Grossman, Aura Alba Leon, Sharon Buell, Mona Mandel, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Patricia Michaels, Joe Davis, Kathleen Schindler, Jamie Bellitz, Neil Savage, Ann O'Neill, Bruce Schechter, Bernard Strassner, Ruth Sherman, Louis Aaron Honig, Jean Sullivan, Carolyn Rubel Magram, and of course, the victims of the shootings in Atlanta and Denver these past couple weeks. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Mourners and those who wish to join them may rise for the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash merabah, ve'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'b'yom echon u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen. Yehesh merabah mevarach le'olam u'almei almaya, Yitbarach, v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shemei d'kudashah b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim alenu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel. Imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru, imru, amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen. A few announcements before we do Motzi and Kiddush and our closing song. So, listen up. Tomorrow, there's nothing. Tomorrow evening is the first night of Passover. Enjoy your family seders. Sunday, due to continued projections of rain and possible scattered thunderstorms, we are not having the field day we hoped for. We will have an online Passover rotation games things like we did for the other holidays on Zoom. So religious school students can still tune in at 11. We'll still have a shortened just Passover fun class, but on Zoom instead of in person. Sunday evening, 5 p.m., our Seder begins. We are using the Ner Shalom Haggadah from Haggadot.com. If you have something you would like to add to it, I have not gotten any takers this year on that request. But if you do have something to add, send it to me, please. Or I can send you the link to edit directly on the Haggadah if you let me know that you need that. 5 o'clock Zoom Seder. Next week, Wednesday at 10:30, book club is meeting to discuss the way back. There is no confirmation class or Torah study next week, as it is spring break. / there's no the Parsha doesn't continue next week because it's the holiday still on Saturdays. So that brings me to my last bit of news, my last announcement. Next Friday night it's the first of the Gregorian month, the first Shabbat of the Gregorian month, so we will do a meditation Shabbat. And then Saturday morning will be a more regular Shabbat morning service, but it will include the festival blessings and a little a Yizkor as the final Shabbat or the final morning of the holiday. So we'll do that next Saturday morning, and then next Saturday evening at 7 we'll close out the Chag with some trivia and games, like we've been doing for the other holidays on Zoom so far. So the trivia categories, to give you an opportunity to start, Googling things at random, will be, of course, general Passover knowledge, modern freedom fighters and / liberators, and flatbreads from around the world. So you've got all that to look forward to. And then next Sunday, there is no religious school again, as it's the end of the spring break period. That's all of our Passover stuff. Seder, morning service next week, games next Saturday evening. All right. Now, Kiddush. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. L'chaim. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together as our joyful prayer is said. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Tevon. All right. Wash that down. Our closing song, again in honor of the holiday that begins tomorrow night, is the Miriam Song, which can be found on page 646 of Mishkan Tefillah. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. And Miriam was a weaver of unique variety. The tapestry she wove was one that sang our history. With every thread and every strand she crafted her delight. A woman touched with spirit, she dances toward the light. As Miriam stood upon the shore and gazed across the sea, the wonder of this miracle she soon came to believe. Whoever thought the sea would part with an outstretched hand, and we would pass to freedom and march to the promised land. And Miriam the prophet took her timbrel in her hand, and all the women followed her, just as she had planned. And Miriam raised her voice in song, she sang with praise in mind. We've just lived through a miracle, we're gonna dance tonight. And the women dancing with their timbrels followed Miriam as she sang her song. Sing a song to the one whom we've exalted. Miriam and the women danced and danced the whole night long. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Have a good start to your holiday, and I will see you Sunday.